Come sit for a while, let's breathe and pause, let's reset and restart. Let's share what we've learned, what's worked, and how to stay true to ourselves. Here we honor ourselves and our journey to health, inner peace and longevity. Thank you for coming, you're beautiful.
Hello and welcome to my guide, Hormone Clarity. My name is Nazli and I'm here to share with you what I've discovered about what happens within our bodies as women in midlife. I'm talking to you as a woman in my early 50s who was once really overweight, unhappy with myself and desperate to lose the weight, but I felt powerless to my body and the food, and having tried so many diets and weight loss advice. One day in my 40s, 1 year after having had a total hysterectomy, I looked at a photo of myself and I didn't like at all what I saw. And I made a decision. I started eating differently. I started making a real effort with myself. I didn't understand any of this hormonal stuff when I started. I was put onto HRT, hormone replacement therapy, after the hysterectomy. And although I was scared to take it because of all the horror stories I'd heard that it causes breast cancer and many other bad things, I still took it every day because I didn't know what else to do. And at the same time, I started following a low carbohydrate, high fat diet. I know it sounds counterintuitive to be eating high fat when I was already fat, but it completely blew my mind and changed my body rapidly. I lost 17 kilos within the first 6 months, and the food was delicious, even decadent. I had to cut out the refined carbohydrates, yes, but it was worth the changes taking place in my body. Over time, I learned about my hormone health and how my eating was actually supporting me as my hormones declined. I didn't know it at the time, but I basically preserved my health by the way I was eating, and it became a way of life for me. 5 years later, I stopped taking the HRT, still because I didn't quite understand it. I feared it more than I understood it. Now that I do understand what happens in our bodies once we hit our 40s and we enter the perimenopause, menopause and postmenopause phase of our lives, I'm deeply grateful that I intuitively knew what to do for my body by changing my habits around food. My life has been completely transformed. My body, my health has never been better. And I'm living testimony for all you women out there who feel helpless, hopeless, and unsure of how to navigate your way forward in midlife, how to lose the weight. Some of you have tried, but it's been stubborn weight. I've been there. I believe that once you understand these key hormonal shifts which take place in our bodies during midlife, which I'm going to share with you here, you will understand how your body can do exactly the same as mine did. Drop from a size 22 to size 10 by losing 30 kilos naturally, all in midlife. So you're exactly in the right place at the right time, here with me, as I share with you what has taken me years to discover and understand. I hope this guide gives you the clarity you need to know why you've put on weight, why you can't lose weight, why it's so difficult to lose the weight, and how you can now make the changes necessary to finally lose the fat for good. I'm so excited to be sharing this with you, and while talking about hormones isn't the most exciting topic, it is possibly the most important topic for us as midlife women. You can listen to this while you're driving, in the shower, or while reading through the slides as I move through them. Let's get you informed and ready for a new version of you, the one you've always wanted to be. Okay, so let's ask the question, what is midlife? To understand it, let's first look at the 3 phases of a woman's life. So we have our reproductive years, we have perimenopause, menopause, and then we have postmenopause. Our reproductive years, usually from our first period to around the age of 40 to 45. And this period lasts typically 30 to 35 years. Then we have the perimenopause, menopause phase, which usually begins in our 40s, ends around our early 50s, and it basically ends at menopause, which is symbolized by 12 months without a period. And this phase typically lasts 4 to 10 years. Then we have the post-menopause phase. So that's from menopause onward, and it lasts for the rest of our lives. This phase can last 30 plus years depending on our life expectancy. So midlife occurs between the ages of 40 to 60 years of age, when we transition and we find that we experience physical, hormonal, emotional changes. Often spiritual changes take place as well. So there are massive shifts which take place from our reproductive years to our postmenopausal phase of life. Our hormones like estrogen and progesterone begin to decline, and this brings about changes in our mood, metabolism, sleep, weight, and energy. And thanks to longer lifespans, many women now spend 1/3 of their lives in postmenopause. That's why understanding your hormones after menopause isn't optional, it's essential. Please note, I'm not a medical practitioner, and the information I share here comes from my personal experience and research, which I've learned over time as I was discovering my own path as a woman in midlife. Navigating my way through the major shifts in hormones and weight gain, my weight loss success is based on scientific research of how our bodies, with all its hormonal changes, responds to being fueled differently. This is what I share with you in a way that's easy to understand, and the way that I've come to understand and make sense of this time in our lives. I like to think of the method I've followed to weight loss as a path leading out from the woods, a way out of uncertainty and confusion. While I have personally experienced weight loss and improved health, as well as guided others on their journey to health and weight loss, I cannot and do not prescribe the low-carb, healthy fat lifestyle as a replacement for medication and or any specific condition. And while it has proven to be successful for me as a sustainable method to lasting weight loss and hormonal recalibration, it is always advisable to consult your doctor before making any changes to your diet. Thank you. Okay, let's understand the important hormones and their role in our bodies. Firstly, what are hormones? Hormones are chemical messengers that tell our bodies what to do. They affect everything from our energy, sleep, our metabolism, to our moods, cravings, and even our confidence. When these hormones are in balance, we feel ourselves. And when they're not, everything feels a little off. I'm going to talk about the main players in our midlife hormone story. And they are estrogen, progesterone, cortisol, and insulin. So let's think of estrogen as the feminine powerhouse. It helps us feel vibrant, keeps our bones and heart strong, it boosts our mood and our libido, and it regulates our menstrual cycles. In midlife, estrogen drops sharply during perimenopause and menopause, and that sudden dip can make us feel moody, tired, a bit foggy, and more prone to weight gain, especially around our bellies. Think of estrogen as your inner glow. When it dips, that glow feels dimmed. And then we have progesterone. We can call it the calming, soothing hormone. It balances estrogen, it helps us sleep more deeply, and it supports stable mood. It also reduces anxiety, and it keeps our cycles regular. Now, in midlife, progesterone is often the first hormone to drop, even in our late 30s. This can cause irritability, poor sleep, and PMS-like symptoms, even if we're not getting our periods regularly. Think of progesterone as our emotional anchor, because when it fades, everything can start to feel a bit unsteady. Then we have cortisol, known as the stress hormone. This helps our bodies respond to stress. It raises our blood sugar levels when it's needed because it gives us the energy to act quickly. In midlife, if we have chronic stress, even hidden stress, that causes cortisol to rise to high levels or crash. And this disrupts other hormones, which can cause fatigue, anxiety, belly fat, and intense cravings. When cortisol is out of balance in our bodies think it's in danger. even if we're just trying to get through the day. And then we have insulin, commonly known as the fat storage hormone. Insulin helps move sugar from our blood into our cells for energy. Sugar in our bloodstream transforms into glucose and then into glycogen and fat. Now, as estrogen drops in midlife, our bodies become more sensitive to carbohydrates. This makes it easier to store fat and harder to burn it. If insulin levels become high, weight loss becomes very difficult, especially on a high carbohydrate diet. So high insulin levels mean we're in fat storage mode. Balanced insulin levels means that we go into fat burning mode. Now, there are also other supporting hormones like testosterone. Yes, women have it too. It helps with muscle, motivation, sex drive, and energy. And it also declines with age. Then we have our thyroid hormones, which control our metabolism, our body temperature, the quality of our hair, skin, and our mood. It often slows down in midlife, and it can add to fatigue and weight gain. Then we have leptin and ghrelin, the hormones that tell you when we're hungry or full. And they too get disrupted by poor sleep, stress, and fluctuating blood sugar levels, often caused by what we eat. So, getting back to midlife, why does it feel so hard? Because in our 40s and 50s, these hormones no longer follow the steady patterns they once did. They rise, they fall, and they crash, like waves, often without warning. You might feel like you're doing all the right things, but your body just isn't responding like it used to. And this isn't your fault. Your body is wise. It's asking for a different kind of support than it needed in your 20s and 30s. We just need to listen more closely. And being prepared with this knowledge, we have the power and control to reset and rebalance our hormones. And I'm going to talk about how we can do this naturally in a few minutes. So now that you understand the key hormones that impact our bodies and what happens to them during midlife, let's quickly take that a step further by understanding how these hormones are impacted during the different phases we go through from perimenopause to postmenopause. So perimenopause is the transition period between our reproductive years and menopause/postmenopause. And this is when estrogen and progesterone fluctuate quite wildly. We experience highs and lows in hormone levels, which affect our insulin sensitivity and our metabolism. We may experience mood swings, belly weight gain, energy dips, sugar cravings. And then menopause, whether it's natural or surgical. There's a sharp drop in estrogen and progesterone and higher insulin resistance. Now, I speak about insulin resistance. What does it mean to be insulin resistant? Well, what happens with insulin resistance is that when the muscle and the liver cells stop responding to insulin the way they should, they become resistant, and so they can't take in any more glucose. And what happens is insulin then sends the glucose, the excess glucose, into our fat cells where it's converted into fat. What then happens is that because we continuously feed our body more carbohydrates and we're continuously creating more glucose, we never actually draw on the fat cells, and that's how we gain weight. And we become insulin resistant. And the impacts to our body during this menopausal phase is, again, belly fat, brain fog, our sleep is affected, and we become at higher risk of bone and heart issues. Now, something very interesting that I actually discovered during my research is that according to the Women's Health Organization, as well as other large women's health organizations in the world, menopause is actually defined as a point in time, not as a phase, but as a particular point in time, a single day. And that single day occurs once our bodies have gone without a period for 12 consecutive months. And that particular day is then considered menopause. Everything thereafter is postmenopause. So I found that very interesting. The hormonal shifts that we experience is sharp drop in estrogen and progesterone, and the impact on our bodies, belly fat, brain fog, sleep issues, bone and heart issues. So then postmenopause is the period after the day of menopause. Everything after that day is postmenopause. And the long-term hormone shifts really start to settle in. Hormone levels stay quite low, they become quite stable, but the effects of the hormonal decline continue to show up in our metabolism, mood, weight, bones, etc. So with that being said, it may seem like as women, we're just headed for decline. But know this, that even if you're only waking up to the realization that your body needs a different approach now, and if you're already in your 40s or 50s, like I was in my 40s, post-hysterectomy, with my hormone levels all over the show, I still lost 30 kgs. The moment I consciously changed my fuel source from fueling with high carb food to teaching my body to draw on the fat cells instead for fuel. Yes, I taught my body to burn its own body fat for fuel. This is powerful because once I understood the hormonal shifts, I basically learned to hack my metabolism and change it completely because of understanding what I needed to do to keep the hormone insulin stabilized. And I'm going to talk about how I did this in a few minutes. So aside from the natural progression of the phases that we go through, there's also the impact of the surgical removal of our reproductive organs, hysterectomy. And this can happen at any phase in life, not just in midlife. So everything that I am sharing with you, yes, it applies mainly to midlife, but there are women who have had hysterectomies at a much younger age. And so this information will apply to them as well. Anything that impacts our hormones in a great way, such as our progression from perimenopause into postmenopause, and that includes hysterectomy, that is all going to be relevant here. We now understand peri and postmenopausal phases, which hormones are the key players and how their decline impacts our bodies. What if I told you that we can reset our hormones and restore balance to our bodies in a natural way? We can restore balance to our bodies biologically and emotionally with just food. And in this process, our bodies start releasing the fat. The fat stored away in our fat cells become fuel for our bodies, and we start rapidly releasing the fat. That's how I dropped 10 dress sizes from a size 22 to a size 10 in midlife. Let's talk about how you too can make it possible for your body to do what mine did, and that's start burning the fat naturally. So what can we do to balance our hormones and burn fat naturally? When we spoke about hormones, we learned that high levels of glucose in our blood is caused by the food we eat, which causes large amounts of insulin to be released to capture the glucose and keep our blood sugar at a safe level. So once insulin is high, our bodies hold onto fat. So what food causes high levels of glucose? And the simple answer is carbohydrates. Now there are three main macronutrients: carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And the carbohydrates that I'm talking about, which becomes glucose in our system, is refined carbohydrates like sugars, fruit juice, sweets, etc. Starchy carbs like bread, rice, potato, pasta, and even the healthier carbs like fruit, lentils, oats. They all cause glucose to form, and so insulin has to be released to protect our blood from becoming flooded with glucose. So in essence, carbohydrates becomes glucose. It raises our blood sugar levels and it causes the hormone insulin to be released. Protein, on the other hand, some protein does become glucose, but it doesn't spike glucose. Protein doesn't cause big blood sugar spikes. It's essential for hormone production, for muscle and repair. And then we have fat, which doesn't become glucose. Fat doesn't raise our blood sugar at all. Fats are used for long, steady energy and hormone creation. And for us midlife women, most of our blood sugar swings come from carbohydrates, not fat or protein. So as a quick recap on why transitioning to a lower carbohydrate way of eating is really supportive for us as women in midlife. When estrogen was stable in our reproductive years, our bodies had more flexibility to handle sugar, snacks, and the indulgences. But now your metabolism is more sensitive and more reactive to the foods you eat. That's why low carb living is a breakthrough for women over 40. Because here is how it helps. It balances blood sugar and reduces insulin spikes, which means less fat storage. It supports hormone harmony by lowering inflammation in our bodies and stabilizing cortisol, the stress hormone. It reduces cravings by resetting the apostat. That's your brain's hunger regulation system. It restores energy and mental clarity, so no more carb crashes. It rebuilds gut and brain communication by nourishing and not numbing. You don't have to starve, you don't have to give up joy. With the right foods, you'll feel satisfied, nourished, and in control. And your body will respond with energy, clarity, and natural weight loss. And finally, before we round off, I'd like to share with you why low carb was so effective for me and why it can work for other women going through midlife as well. After my total hysterectomy, which is when my uterus, ovaries, fallopian tubes, and cervix were removed, my body was essentially placed into surgical menopause. And that was pretty much overnight. There was no gentle decline. There was no time to adjust. One day I had estrogen and the next day I just didn't. And my body felt it. The weight came on quickly, especially around my belly. My cravings got stronger, my sleep got less, and my moods were harder to manage. It felt like I had lost control of my body, and for a while I blamed myself. But once I understood what was happening hormonally, it all started to make sense. Without ovaries, estrogen drops dramatically. And estrogen plays a major role in how our bodies handle insulin. As you now know, our fat storage hormone. So when estrogen falls, insulin resistance increases. That means my body, after my hysterectomy, started storing more fat easily, and it had a much harder time burning it. Low carb changed that for me. By reducing my intake of sugar and refined carbs, I lowered my insulin levels. And now, as we know, when insulin is low, the body then finally gets permission to release the stored fat. So within the first 5 to 6 months, I had already lost 17 kilos of body fat. I didn't have to starve myself. I didn't have to do anything extreme. I just had to stop spiking my insulin and start eating in a way that was aligned with my new hormonal reality. Low carb helped me lose the weight, but it also gave me back my energy, my clarity, my sense of control, and it helped me work with my body again, even in this new chapter where everything had changed. And if it worked for me, it can absolutely work for you too. It's not impossible to lose the weight. You just need a new strategy. And low carb is the one that makes sense, biologically and practically. So in essence, what I've learned over the 8 years that I've been following a low carb lifestyle is that it's not about restriction. It's about restoration, helping your body feel safe, balanced, and energized again. Because we begin to eat in a way that puts us back in control, and we start feeling it very soon after starting. So the reason I'm so passionate about sharing my journey and my cause, Low Carb Breakthrough, is because I discovered what works for our hormones in midlife. I'm now more aware of how the lack of some hormones impacts us and the excess of others can destroy us. So having learned from trial and error, I'm confident about it being the way to health and lasting weight loss for many, many other women out there. When I became clear about insulin, which I didn't even know was one of the major hormones, I thought only diabetics needed to worry about insulin. I was wrong. And I'm really grateful that I started listening and took the time to truly understand what my body was asking for. It's about coming home to a body that works with you, not against you. And this is why I know for sure that because I've lived it and done it, and I'm still following a lower carb lifestyle, that it will work for you too. Weight loss is the bonus we get for feeding our bodies what it needs nutritionally. And my course, Low Carb Breakthrough, teaches you everything you need to know, all captured in one place. No unnecessary information or figuring things out on your own. Just solid lived experience. I also know that it takes all of us to make big changes in our lives. So you'll find in Low Carb Breakthrough, I bring together the science, the practical step-by-step way to get you started, and also the mindset shifts and emotional grounding that we need to help us really anchor in the changes and the new way of life. I hope this guidance has helped you understand your body better, and I look forward to you joining me on Low Carb Breakthrough, where we can celebrate your success and your coming home to yourself. I would like to take a moment just to acknowledge you. You've just taken the first step towards understanding your hormones, not through fear, but through clarity. This knowledge is your turning point. It's not too late. You're not too far gone. You're not imagining it. You're simply being asked to meet your body with new wisdom. Can we take a moment just to reflect? A point to ponder? What if everything you've been blaming yourself for has been your hormones trying to get your attention? And what changes when you start seeing your symptoms as signals and not as failures? I'd like you to take out your journal or a piece of paper for this sacred pause and answer this question. What does my body need from me now that it didn't need 10 years ago? How might I begin to respond with love instead of frustration? And as an embodiment practice, I'd like you to place one hand on your belly and one on your heart. I'd like you to take a deep breath in through your nose and a long exhale through your mouth. And whisper softly to yourself, I am listening now. I am listening now. And let this moment mark the beginning of a new relationship with your body. And to anchor in a new breakthrough belief, instead of saying, my body is working against me, anchor in this new belief. My body is speaking to me, and I'm finally learning how to listen. Thank you. If you're ready to step into your new self, I'll guide you step by step to help get you started. Know exactly what food serves your body in this phase of life. Lose the stubborn weight and feel like yourself again. And I do so with science, soul, and simplicity. Join me in Low Carb Breakthrough, my short, powerful online course, and let's begin your journey together. Go to www.stan.store/Low Carb Breakthrough. It would be an absolute joy to walk this path of transformation with you.
Let's sit for a while, let's breathe and pause, let's reset and restart.